Hi there. Have you ever wondered, how do I jump higher? How do I increase my bunnies so I can dunk on my friend, so I can get over the net and get a hit that just absolutely demolishes a team, so I can get up to get that crisp header into the goal off the corner? How do I jump higher? Well, I have your answer, and I'm going to make this answer as simple as possible. We're not going to spend a lot of time here because I want to get you this answer. When it comes to jumping high, there's two sides. There's a standing and approach, right? I can do this off moving or I can do it off standing. We're going to go off standing to start because this is really the bread and butter of why you're here. So let me ask you this question. How strong are you, right? We're strong. We have a certain strength level. So you can squat a lot. That's fantastic. Now, the second is, can you do that quickly? So when we look at force production, if we increase our force, we will increase our vertical as long as we're not doing crazy things with increasing our overall body mass as well, right? Like if my force increases, but I also gain 20 pounds, I might not increase my vertical. But if we're not gaining crazy weight and going wild with it, but we're increasing our force like crazy, then our vertical will go up, right? If I'm jumping and I produce 80 pounds of force into the ground, and then exact same replica of me produces 100 pounds of force into the ground, the 100 pounds of force is going to go higher than the 80. So the answer to the question is force production of our lower limbs, and then in coordinates with the upper body, so on and so forth. So we can get really into details, but again, we're going to stay simple on this. Force equals mass times acceleration, right? So the weight at which, if we're squatting 100 pounds, right? If we squat 100 pounds and we're really slow on the way up, which shouldn't be, it's 100 pounds, right? Or we squat 100 pounds and we're really fast, that's the acceleration. So the speed at which we're moving. We might be able to produce a lot of force pretty slowly, but if you produce 100 pounds of force at 3 miles an hour, that's not going to get you as high as 100 pounds of force at 10 miles per hour. And I'm using all these terms because they're familiar, right, to you. But if we think about force in that way, it's how much weight can we produce, and then at what speed can we produce the weight? So then you're like, okay, how do I train for this? Well, there's a lot of ways, right? We need to increase the weight. We need to increase the acceleration. One of the two or both. If we increase one, if my weight goes up and my acceleration stays the same, I see a vertical increase. If my weight stays the same and my acceleration goes up, then I see an increase in my vertical, right? So when we're looking at this, it's not that confusing, but then you might say, how do I do that? We'll do that in a few ways. Let's keep taking the squat because it's an incredibly basic movement, but we could say the same with like a trap bar deadlift, with like a dumbbell jump, a hang clean, all of these things, a snatch, whatever it is that you decide you're going to do. I'm not saying, oh, go do all of those exercises. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying take the movements that you do or that you are currently doing. If you don't do any movements, start doing some movements, right? Use some lower body exercises with weight. If we can do a movement at the same speed with more weight, we're improving our force. If we can do a movement with more more speed at the same weight, I don't know if I just said that. More weight, it's the more weight, more speed, or more speed, more weight, we improve our force. So how might we do that? Well, if we're lifting a barbell and we're moving a little bit slower with it to do more weight, that's okay, but then we need to also contrast that with moving that bar quicker at a little less weight. So we have to train for both of these. So it's not just a formula of how much can you squat. That's not it. Like if you can increase your squat, and at a certain point you might not increase your vertical, right? Because the speed at which you're doing it might not be that high. So you could do a barbell back squat and it could take you 2 seconds to get to the top of it. That's not that fast, right? That's not very explosive. That doesn't mirror an explosive jump. We can also go to a squat and we can take half a second, 0.4 seconds, popping up to the front, right? If we can pop up, we get that speed with that strength, and then we can find a new max squat. So there's speed, strength, there's strength, speed, there's all these different terms. Really what we're talking about is we're either prioritizing our strength, which means we're going a little bit more weight and we're trying to do it at a fast speed, or we're doing a higher speed and not as much worried about weight, which means we might sacrifice some of that weight in order to increase the speed. We can do this with all movements. We can also do this through contrast training. So we can do a heavier, slower movement followed by almost weightless, faster movement. And if we pair those two together, then we get our strength, we get our speed, and we're mixing, right? We do need to do some weighted movements that require us to do some speed as well. But that variety gives you a base on at least what we're looking at when we look at, I want to increase my force, and we do that. We're either increasing the speed at which we do the movement at the same weight, or we're increasing the weight of the movement and still going for max speed. Both of these are what we need, right? in order to increase our force, we just have to improve one of them. But as long as we're working towards both of them, we're probably going to see improvements in at least one, especially an untrained athlete. You're going to be able to do that, and you're going to see improvements pretty quickly, right? And it's going to be fantastic. But then as we get, if you're older, a little bit more complex, you've been training for a while, then we got to really hone in on that. At what speed am I moving the bar? At what weight am I moving the bar, the weights, or whatever it is, right? And then you can kind of calculate and assess that. So when we're looking at improving force, that's what it comes down to. It's not some secret sauce exercise or some secret, it doesn't have to be with this piece of equipment or this thing or that thing. You can do it a million ways, but we need to be doing it to increase our strength and our speed. We need to increase both of those things, right? And that speed doesn't just mean go sprint and now, we jump higher. No, the speed at which we do that movement, right? We can have some reciprocation of what we're doing. If we're looking at sprinting, how do we increase our strength with a sprint? Sled pushes, sled pulls, things like that, right? How do we increase our speed when sprinting? Well, we can actually just straight up sprint. We can do assisted sprints where there's a little bit of something helping us on it. Those are all ways that we can see improvements. You can use a parachute while sprinting. You use anything, right? Anything that makes the sprint more difficult is helping you with your strength. Anything that makes a sprint easier is helping you with your speed. And same vice versa, right? So there's the simplification of it. That's about as simple as I can get it. Then you can piece your own exercises in there. The only other disclaimer I will add to this is when we are looking at our increasing our ability to do a vertical jump, then if we look at our approach vertical, we can change our technique to do that. Sorry, it was a long roundabout way of saying if we change our technique, we can also see improvements. So your technique on an approach vertical could be garbage. Like let's say you're a basketball player, you're a volleyball player, your technique could be garbage, which is causing you to lose some inches on your vertical, right? We can improve our technique and thus improve our vertical. So we have our ability to produce force and then our technique with it. Those two things will increase our vertical. And then just practicing jumping, getting your arm swing to be smoother with your jump to help your jump and all the little intricate details of how we move throughout the movement. So there's your question. There's how you increase your vertical. If you have questions on exactly what exercises you want to do or should do or all that stuff, let me know. I would love to help with that. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you tomorrow.